Powered by Riverside.
It's the Dynasty front office, and we are building you championships one trade at a time.
Let's hop into it, boys. This is Lyle's email. He says, "Hey guys, my name is Lyle, and I've been listening since you guys launched. Shout out to Phil. That's nice. Love what you guys are doing with the show. I wanted to throw a trade your way. Here's the deal I just made. Lyle sent Jamar Chase and a 2026 third, and he received Brian Thomas Jr., Matthew Golden, and a 2027 first from a contender. Is what he's saying here. Let's see. He says, he wrote a little bit more here. He said, now before you roast me for moving Chase, here's my thought process. I've been stuck in the middle of the pack for the past 2 years, and I don't want to stay there forever. I see this as a chance to buy low on Brian Thomas after a slow start, grab another young upside wide receiver in Golden, and secure a first-round pick that could end up being more valuable than it looks right now. Trading away Chase isn't easy. Trust me, I know what I'm giving up, but I feel like this could be the type of in-season move that helps me take the next step, even if I'm losing out on a superstar. Am I being a fool here, or am I actually making a sneaky, smart play? Thanks for breaking it down. All right. Yeah. So actually, this is kind of cool because last week we got to talk a little bit about Burrow, and it obviously Jamar Chase is the main part of this trade here, so that's going to be a little bit of fun. But let's see. All right, I like it. Austin, talk to me, man. The Chase situation's easy enough, right? So elite player has elite quarterback go down. Someone in the league sees this as a chance to grab an untouchable, right? And he goes out there and grabs up Chase or attempts to. In this case, he did. So what I want to know, I don't care about that. I want to know is what's going on with Brian Thomas Jr. Is this a blip where, next offseason we're all laughing at the guys who let him go for, 3/4 or half his previous value that we saw during the previous offseason? Just talk to me a little bit about Brian Thomas.
I want to say yes, because I myself have bought a couple shares this offseason. So, as a believer of a player that I thought going into year 2 would see continued targets, continued usage, and excel in the game that we saw his rookie season, even expand on it to become a better player. The first 3 weeks have been nicely put as brutal. So, we don't really know, to be honest. I mean, we know he has a wrist injury, but if it's bad enough, why aren't they sitting him? So, is it a concentration issue? Is it a confidence issue? Are him and T-Law not getting along? Does he not like Cohen? There's a lot of questions that right now we don't know. And realistically, it could be a 1-year wonder. We've seen it time and time again, unfortunately. Chase Claypool is the first name that comes to my head. Had 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns first season, and never saw him again. Now, I would say we're all more excited with Brian Thomas Jr., but we can't rule that out. There is a possibility that NFL defenses figured out a way to scheme for him, and what he was doing last year isn't possible this year. And, maybe maybe he's more limited than what we hoped, and, we're not going to see that ceiling come true. I do believe that by, January, the people that were able to buy him cheaper are happy. I would say more times than not, if I'm using my crystal ball, at least I'm hopeful, I guess. I don't really know what else you could hope for as a Brian Thomas manager. We've seen it, and now we're not seeing it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good example to bring up with Claypool. Although I think splitting hairs here, situation's a little bit different because we did see some of the limitations with Claypool, whereas Brian Thomas Jr. we saw him do a little bit of everything, and he seemed to excel in a lot of different areas. which was part of what was so exciting about him. Where it wasn't just a production, it was also, kind of the eye test and kind of the feel of what he was giving off last season. But yeah, I mean, Jesse, any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, of course. So as you guys know, I was extremely high on Brian Thomas Jr. coming into the NFL. That being said, I really was not looking at him as a buy this offseason. He got to such a high point. Like you said, after one season, it did make sense to me to buy him, but I did hold him. I didn't sell him anywhere. Yes, in the back of my mind, it's been creeping up all off season. It had been creeping up all off season. What if there is a sophomore slump? The man is supremely talented. So I don't think that he's a flash in the pan, but we're seeing how a sophomore slump can happen, right? A new offense, a very complicated offense, a quarterback that's got some pretty major flaws that are being exposed at the moment, and an injury, right? So all of those things together can absolutely lead up to a slow start. But I don't think that this player's talent is going to let him fail overall. So if you look at him as, let's say he's lost a little value, he's still worth 2 firsts, right?
Yeah, I think people are going to be a little bit more hesitant to pay that at this current moment. It's the same thing with Marvin Harrison Jr. I would almost put them dead together.
I think there's some sharks out there that would do it in a heartbeat.
Maybe.
I think I would in the right situation. Don't start popping offers out. Please. In the right, it would have to be like, it just would have to be the perfect situation, I guess, where I didn't really need him to produce right now. I had a stacked roster and I had an opportunity to kind of let him rest on my bench. In this situation, you also have Jamar Chase, who's going to have depressed production for the next 10 weeks till week 14. I think we're hoping Burrow can come back. Yeah, maybe. And he wasn't clicking yet, right? So he's still probably going to be in that cold mode, that cold early season Burrow mode. If you're expecting him to come back and just light it up in the playoffs automatically, that's scary. Yeah. So you can't really expect Jamar Chase level production from last year out of Jamar Chase this year. So right there, I'm fine with sort of taking the gamble that BTJ can match his production. Now I'm also getting Golden that he's shown signs. 5 for 51 this week is a step forward. Well, if he can become a flex in my lineup, and then I also have a first in my back pocket, I think it's a good deal, especially value wise. I think it's a good deal. I would take the package.
Okay. Yeah. So as far as Golden goes, I know we you kind of mentioned him a little bit, Jesse, but we really didn't get too deep into it. As far as this season goes, we seen him get off to a little bit of a slow start. He's got some injury help with some other guys on the roster finding some injuries, and the offense being pretty spectacular to this point. I mean, they've been impressive, at least in my eyes. What are we hoping for this season from him? Like, well, and what I mean when I'm saying hoping, obviously we hope he's a wide receiver 1, but from the likeliest scenarios, what are we hoping for?
You mean like numbers wise, or just what it looks like by the end of the year?
Finishes, and maybe just impact on value, where he ends up, that kind of deal. Don't have to get too specific with amount of yards, touchdowns, that kind of stuff.
I'd like to see him finish top 25. And by the end of the year, be the number 1 option in the passing game for Green Bay. But we have a long way to go, and cross your fingers he gets there. But there's a lot of football to be played, so I'm giving Golden a long leash. He's not in my lineups right now, but by no means so I think his value has gone down.
Yeah, I think this is a really good opportunity to remind people that this is it feels like we're deep in the season here, and we've had some wins and some disappointments, but this is week 3. These wins and disappointments aren't really wins and disappointments yet. You know, we're gonna get into week 10, and all the disappointments and all the wins that you've had, or a lot of the disappointments and wins that you've had are gonna feel like, you know, just kind of blips. So
it's gonna feel like last season.
Yeah, exactly. So, Austin, one thing that I want to kind of finish off here with asking you, or maybe not finish, but just kind of get your perspective here. When you're doing a trade like this, when you're trading an elite player like Jamar Chase, even ignoring the injury, because I think all of us feel pretty safe about Chase and what he is and what he's going to be going forward. But giving up a player like that, you're looking at taking on a couple of really good prospects, one of which has a hell of a season behind him, wide receiver 4 finish in year 1, and also getting that first round pick. What is the likeliest scenario in your eyes for how this trade ends up looking down the road? Do you think this is the kind of trade where somebody looks back and they see that they've let go an elite player and they're like, man, one of these pieces didn't work out and it kind of looks bad? Or do you think even if maybe 2 out of 3 hit, it could still end up looking like a decent deal?
Yeah, I think both managers could be content with their decision in 12 months' time. I think we have a decent avenue where Brian Thomas, Matthew Golden, and a 27 first, even if late, we're happy with 2 of those 3. And as long as one of those is Brian Thomas, we're probably feeling good about it. Because then you're getting Brian Thomas and either Matthew Golden or a 27 first for Jamar Chase, which we all basically just agreed that at least this year, we're going to see some kind of regression on value due to circumstances out of his own. Now, it's possible that he's hyper-targeted, 15 targets from a bad QB. That's always possible, but more likely than not, his targets aren't going to be as successful for his production. So, there's a good chance we see a little dip in Chase, and all that means is, Brian Thomas and one of those other 2 have to hold me for home. So I think it's one where both could be happy. A little risky if you're a contender buying Chase, to be honest. It scares me a little bit not having Burrow. You're giving all that up with Jake Browning.
Well, let me, because he did add a little bit more context. I just thought it was too much to read. But he did say the person that he's trading with is not a contender. It's a contender's first from somebody else.
Okay.
I think the risk overall, like a year from now, the risk side lies on the package. Chase is the stud elite commodity here. So the risk is really entirely on the other side. I think the value is enough, for me to overcome the risk.
That's probably a good way to put that.
Yeah. One thing that one way I like to think about trades like this too is when you're trading away an elite player like this and you're taking on the riskier side of the trade. One way to mitigate risk is to get that first and then maybe do a smart play with the first instead of actually just sticking with it and drafting a player in 20. This is a 2027 pick. So sticking with it and saying, hey, I like the draft class in 27. I'm just going to grab a guy. Maybe you're like, hey, you know what? The rest of this trade's already risky. Let me mitigate my risk. Go grab a guy who's pretty consistent, pretty reliable, and I know I'm going to get some production going forward from.
100% what I was thinking. You don't have to draft a player with that first. You can go use it on a proven veteran. There's so many guys you can get for a late first that can really help you win.
I'm not a proponent for moving 27 first currently, unless somebody is a future draft guru guy that views these first as some crazy value. Then sure, move it. But in a vacuum, a future first is a future first. This draft class will gain steam. Even more than what is in the deep Dynasty community now. The average Dynasty community by next April, or really by next May especially, those first are going to be worth a lot. I know we all remember the 24 class. Those things were so expensive, even 2 years in advance. And y'all remember as we got closer and closer, they just became more and more expensive. So, I wouldn't love moving a 27 first, but I do love acquiring them. Right now, if you can tear down 1 or 2 spots for a player you like and get that first with it, it feels really good.
Yeah, that's a really good point to bring up because just in saying talk about moving the 27 first, it doesn't have to be now, right? Like you can. It's all about the details. So like Austin's alluding to here, look at the class, see if you think it's going to gain steam, gain traction in the community, which a lot of people do believe the 27 class is one of those. And maybe wait until that time comes. It's not something that has to be done now, but that's a really good point. Appreciate the insight, guys. I think this is kind of wrapped up here, but I'm going to ask you guys one more question. Don't have to elaborate on it. Don't have to add anything. Just a simple, who won? Did Lyle win his trade, Austin?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
Awesome. Lyle, you're the winner. You're the winner. Thanks again for sending in the trade. If you can, listeners, please send us another trade. I'm really loving the way that people are approaching this and kind of elaborating on the situation, giving us context. That way we can talk more in depth about your specific situation. So please continue that. And yeah, you can get your trades to us at dynfo.official@gmail.com. Once again, that's dynfo.official@gmail.com.